How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Quarantine Cast. This is episode 8, and today is very exciting for me because I reached out to a couple people and we have a couple guests lined up, but today is really awesome because we get to interview a friend of mine that we just recently met not too long ago, and it's a pleasure to interview him. This has been a long time coming. We talked about doing this collaboration for a while, but it's finally being done. Welcome to the Quarantine Cast. Joyishi, how are you doing today, my dude?
Howdy, everybody. I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, I'm just kind of here, enjoying life.
Well, yeah. So me and Joyishi met not too long ago. We actually met through a mutual friend named Muzu. Muzu is a staple on the channel. Some of you guys who are listening might know Muzu. Muzu is a legend among these parts. But yeah, we met through Muzu, and my sort of introduction to Joy was just going to his streams. Really chill dude. His streams are honestly just really nice to kind of like sit down, watch, have in the background, sort of enjoy him just playing whatever game that he plays. He doesn't usually play a bunch of like the mainstream games. He does like some of the, I don't know, how would you describe your streams to people who aren't familiar with people with somebody who doesn't watch your streams? How would you describe them?
I would say they're pretty relaxing. Or at least like to keep them relaxing, but I'm also very like chat oriented. So like if you are talking with me in the chat, I will more than likely see your comment. I'll reply to you. Um, there's only been like one case where it hasn't happened, but uh, yeah, the streams themselves though they are pretty relaxing. Um, I play a lot of not so much indie games, but like lesser known titles. So I do play a couple of triple A's, a lot of Nintendo stuff, but most of the time it's just I don't know if you guys are familiar, but like games like Disgaea, games like Puyo Puyo, like stuff that are still definitely popular and have their own fan base for them, but they're not like, major retail like console selling games, anything like that.
Yeah, and I like that about your streams because it definitely stands out in the world of Twitch, which I'll get into recently because it's a new sort of venture for us because we both kind of switched around the same time. But in the world of Twitch, where there's Call of Duties, I want to say Apex Legends, it's like so hard to find your own niche on Twitch. So I think that
Yeah.
you doing what you naturally do, because those are the type of games that you would play anyways, are just make you stand out from the pack of just like people who constantly play AAA games to try to build a fan base, which on Twitch is honestly really hard to do with those types of games. But besides all that, thank you so much, Joy. I'm gonna keep calling you Joy because that's how I refer to you. But yeah, thank you
That's
so
fine.
thank you thank you so much for coming through today. I really do appreciate it. But moving right into it, man, I do want to ask you because we are both sort of in this whole content creation space. We both used to do YouTube, stream on YouTube, make videos for YouTube. I still kind of do. But how did you get introduced to the whole content creation thing? What was the thing that like sort of motivated you to want to venture into it?
A long time ago, I had this friend group that really wanted it was less of streaming, but more of like actual video editing, video uploading, stuff like that.
Right.
But we wanted to just kind of get into the YouTube scene, not so much to make money or anything. It was kind of just, we were having a laugh, we were just going about doing our own thing. And we was like, you know what, let's try to bring other people into this. Let's try to make some content, stuff like that. And it was really fun. One of our longest running series for that channel at the time was Dokapon Kingdom. We had like
Mm,
70 episodes
dang,
of
dude.
just that. It's just a really fun game. It's one of the ones that I always default to if I don't feel like I have anything else to really play,
Mm-hmm.
at least at the time, anyways. Um, However, there was a little bit of a heated argument with one of the members of the group, and that caused him to delete the entire channel. Of
Oh,
course, we weren't big
jeez.
enough, so we couldn't really recover it. So all of that stuff's just been deleted. For a while, I kind of felt like I didn't want to do it anymore
Mm-hmm.
because of that. Like it's just getting all of that stuff back. Which we weren't really popular to begin with. We had maybe like 30 subs, but it was just for fun.
Yeah, but
But
it's the time spent that you're like,
yeah,
well, this just kind of went all to waste essentially.
exactly, yeah. So for a while, I kind of just I would just go on YouTube to watch videos, but I wouldn't really like upload or stream or do any of that stuff. But then once I obtained Digimon Cyber Sleuth, the very first one for the PS4, I was like, you know what? I love Digimon. I'm gonna go ahead and stream this to other people. So I started streaming through the PS4, streaming stuff, some Digimon content, and like Digimon Cyber Sleuth, Digimon World Next Order, Cyber Sleuth 2, and I was having fun. I got a couple of people come by and talk about Digimon with me. But then some school stuff, work stuff, couldn't really start streaming anymore. And that was pretty much the end of it until I started following this one specific YouTube streamer. I won't name their name because we're not really in good water anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want anyone to like go to them and, harass them or anything. But
No, that's completely
um,
fine.
yeah, but when I first met them, they were this really fun guy, really chill. We played a lot of Smash Brothers. I joined him on a lot of his other stuff because we were really good friends. But then a lot of stuff, a lot of drama started happening within his own channel with his moderators, stuff like that. I was actually the first admin in his whole like Discord, his channel stuff,
Mm-hmm.
like above moderator type deal because we were just that close of friends, so much he trusted me and whatnot. But then I kind of started siding with a lot of the people who didn't have good things to say about him
Right.
because the more that I hung out with him, the more I realized how two-faced he was, the more I realized how like he was kind of just saving face rather than actually admitting his true feelings on the matter and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these other moderators, a lot of these other people on his channel, on his Discord, uh, they kind of told me like, uh, I would much rather watch you than this guy, and that was because we also did a lot of stuff together, so I was on his stream quite often on his videos. So they kind of knew me from that. So that's where I started making my own YouTube streams. I was streaming. I had moderators that moved from his channel to my channel. I
Mm-hmm.
had viewers like Muzu, which I actually got introduced to from that guy. So there's some good stuff that came from that. uh, but yeah, so that out of spite, out of like the knowledge that people appreciated what I was doing, that I was able to build a community within a community and still bring it with me. That kind of got me to make my own stuff. And I was on YouTube for a while. I got like about I think it was like 100 subscribers. I did like a 24-hour live stream,
Right. That was
but it's still
awesome.
kind of yeah, and it was great. It was fun, but it still kind of felt empty in a way.
Right.
Like I wasn't really getting anywhere with YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And then after a while, it kind of felt like as if I got shadow banned on YouTube because I wasn't getting anybody. There was like no one coming through. And then I started getting just like this troll who would not stop coming to my streams and somehow getting all of my personal information and starting sharing it everywhere.
What the
Like
fuck? That actually happened towards the tail end before you switched over?
yes,
Oh
there
my
was a
god,
guy
I
who
didn't know
came
about that.
in. I had banned him. He came back with an alternate account, and this kept going on for like an hour. But he kept like making fun of family members by name. He was like all this personal info that he somehow had. Like he never told me where I lived or anything like that. Like none of that information, but just like the fact that he knew who I was IRL. He knew who my family was. That sort of stuff. Like it was not something I was okay with.
Yeah.
Um, and that's when I was like, okay, I'm gonna try out Twitch streaming again.
Mm-hmm.
Because I had also heard that you started doing that.
Right.
So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and start Twitch streaming. I'm gonna see if it's better. Sadly, I want to say about 90% of the people who watch me on YouTube couldn't come through with Twitch as well, which
Mm-hmm.
I understand. It's fine. If you can't do it, then you can't do it. I don't have any bad blood for them. We still talk, outside of Twitch. But yeah, and that's when I kind of started doing Twitch stuff. And I also started doing like VTubing at that time too.
Yeah,
Um,
I want to talk. I want to ask you about that too. But it seems like, damn, that's honestly really crazy, and I didn't really know that that last little detail was like a big factor as to why you switched. But kind of going back to what you were mentioning, yeah, in preparation for this, I did go back and like I sort of like analyzed the sort of content that you were making, and it's just like I said earlier, you were doing a bunch of stuff that you were like just stuff that you enjoy, and I think that sort of resonates with a lot of people. Like if you are coming through and you just like playing the things that you want to play, that you legitimately enjoy, that resonates. People people
Right.
sense that sort of like love for the games that you play, and it's infectious. I saw that I see that you played some of like some you did some like melodies, some songs on Maple Story 2. I saw that you were playing Dokapon and stuff like that, which I played like a long time ago, and like I saw your streams when you would play it, and it's like it ruins friendships. But
Yeah, no, it doesn't just ruin, it destroys.
but yeah,
Mario Party's the ruiner.
yeah, Mario Party. You know what? I need to play Mario Party because it's been a long time. But yeah, so like I said, when I was introduced to your streams, it was just like really chill, really awesome, and through that, we've like kept in contact just through friendships. We kind of you spoke about having like this collaboration channel with a bunch of friends that you had, and we were kind of doing that. That's exactly how we kind of met. Like we gathered up a bunch of people, and we were planning to do that, and I still do hope to this day that we still could do that in the future. But I kind of had a
Of
similar
course, yeah.
experience when I was brought up to YouTube. I started doing YouTube in 2008. I was doing YouTube, like actually making videos, and those channels are long gone due to copyright issues and stuff like that. YouTube making new policies or whatnot. My older YouTube
Yeah.
channels were like completely eviscerated, but there was a point where I too got in contact with a bunch of friends, and we made a collaboration channel, and the whole point of it was like each of us would have our own series, our own let's play series, and eventually collaborate with each other. And just through some disagreements or just not seeing eye to eye with one specific person, they had access to the channel and they completely deleted it. And it was sort of that same vibe where we were already like well deep into our own let's plays, and just like that, it was just wiped out from existence. So it was just something that really sucked. And for a while, I was just a consumer of YouTube. I didn't really make content. I would just watch other YouTubers, and I always kind of wanted to do something with content creation, not just on YouTube but in general. Obviously, YouTube is like the big platform that you first think of, when you think of content creation. But it took a really long time, and in 2016 I started doing that. I started making videos. I even delved into streaming, which was not the best idea because my computer at the time was not like capable of running anything, and I didn't know anything about streaming. But yeah, when I started doing streaming again, it was after a very kind of like sort of like dark time. It was like in the middle of quarantine. That's why this podcast is called the Quarantine Cast, because it started from quarantine. But it's just something that it just really motivated me to do it. And it's really awesome to hear that through all the negative shit that happened in the midst of deciding, what, I'm just gonna do my own thing. And it really is awesome that you were able to just push yourself through it and still decide, what, I'm not gonna let this other dude ruin my vibe. I still want to do this. If people want to come through, watch my own stuff, that's awesome. I'll gladly welcome them into my own community. And I'm glad that they did, because dude, I mean, not to toot your own horn or anything, but dude, you're fucking awesome. You're one of the most wholesome, nice people that I've ever met, and I'm really happy to be part of your community too, and to call you a friend. But yeah, I do want to talk about that because we did transition over to Twitch around the same time. And my biggest factor for switching over to Twitch was that my channel on YouTube was kind of steering in a direction where I was just streaming a whole lot, and when my intention coming back to YouTube was to produce content, produce videos, edited sort of content, right? And I was kind of just falling back into, well, it's really easy for me to just come through to streaming, so I'm just gonna stream. So on YouTube, for me, in my personal opinion, streaming is like secondary to content creation. They don't really give you a whole lot of tools to stream. They have some features that are really nice, but other than that, it's not the place where you want to be if you want to focus on streaming rather than content creation.
Right.
So for me, that was the biggest inclination. And I always like, I didn't want to switch over because I have a YouTube video called the Twitch rant, which is really outdated, really horrible, really cringy. But if part of me was like, dude, like you made this video, you have talked so much like crap essentially about Twitch, you would kind of look like a hypocrite. But essentially it's not bad to kind of like reanalyze the situation and just like take a second look at it and just say, you know what, like I was wrong, you know, I was wrong, and now I'm more happy than ever to have done the switch. But how was your transition over to Twitch? I know that you said that some people weren't able to do the transition from YouTube to Twitch, and in my case too, it really did take a while for people to, you know, be able to switch over from YouTube to Twitch to continue watching my stuff. But how was it for you, and how do you feel about doing the transition now that it's been a couple months since we did it?
I will say, just like you, I before switching to Twitch, I had a lot of like negative uh, ideas of Twitch, negative inclinations about it, um, and I just like that was also another reason why I decided to go strictly YouTube instead of Twitch, and that was because I just didn't like it at first.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't know much about it. That probably didn't help. But seeing all of these like negative articles about like the hot tub streamers, the the fact that women can, or like I'm not saying this in a way that's like controversial or anything, but like this is what the articles were saying, right? Like
Yeah,
women were
and like,
doing all of these like provocative things and just getting a slap on the wrist, but then
yeah,
a guy would do something far less threatening but somewhat similar, and they would get banned from the platform, right?
right,
Like those are the kind of things I was seeing online. I was like, okay, I don't want to associate with that.
yeah,
But after what had happened on YouTube, after realizing that I really wasn't just going anywhere on YouTube, um, I was like, okay, I'll bite the bullet. I'll go to Twitch. And I don't know if it's just because I was on the VTuber side rather than just the regular streamer side, but it has been nothing but wholesome. I have not gotten any drama. I've seen drama from other people, definitely. I know that you've also been through some drama on the VTubing side of Twitch, but
yeah.
personally, I've not had any, and I feel very lucky that I haven't had any yet. And so that's why I'm like, this is a lot better than what I originally thought it was going to be. And again, I also still have like that tinge of like I'm a hypocrite, but I like it here. It's just better.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
so
Like part of me was like, dang, dude. Like, and just to kind of like bounce off of what you said, it's really hard for someone like somebody like us who we already have that negative inclination about Twitch, and then we see these articles. That's all we see, right? These negative
right,
things, these negative instances. That's all we see because that's what the media like portrays Twitch as, like this hot tub sort of like OnlyFans offshoot, like light or whatever. That's all we really see. That's all the media presents to us. So it's kind of hard for us to be like, well, yeah, like that's exactly why I don't want to switch over there, because that's all it is. When in reality, you switching over to a new platform kind of gives you the ability to just be not be a new person, but like kind of start fresh, sort of build your
right.
community from the start up. And that's essentially kind of what you did, right? And so did I. Obviously my community, I'm really grateful that my community was able to do the transition and was there from the beginning, but it also gave me the ability to just build more off of that, and I've seen your interactions because obviously, we follow each other on Twitter, and Twitter does this thing where whatever you like, it shows your other people.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really weird. But I've seen, like, I tune into your streams every once in a while when I can and just have it there. But yeah, your interactions with other people have just been really wholesome, and me too. Like, I'll get into the whole VTubing thing eventually, but the whole you get this other opportunity to just build yourself up again and sort of get to decide, okay, this is who I want to interact with, this is the community that I kind of want to like go based off of. And you have that, like, and you did that, right? Like, I know that when you were sort of, because I know when I started watching you, you were just, it was just your voice, right? Your voice. I guess we could get into the whole VTubing thing already, but what made you want to try out the whole VTubing thing? Like, what was it that really pushed you over the edge and said, you know what, I'm gonna try this? Because I don't know exactly if you were doing it on YouTube. I don't remember what you left off at on YouTube, but what made you switch over to just, you know, doing the whole voice thing and just wanting to try out the whole VTubing thing?
Keys in an eye, mostly. It was very, very long time ago when I first found out that you could use like models and stuff like that to make content on YouTube. I really wanted to try that out, and Keys in an Eye was like the first one that I saw that really implemented that almost perfectly. It also helped that I knew a lot about MMD Studio and all that stuff, and I wanted to use like the Vocaloid model that I had for myself. It was a very, very old rendition of my character, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, it was still something that I made. I just didn't know how to do it. You know, so I wanted to do this VTubing thing, like even way back before that first group collaboration that I was talking about before. But without the knowledge or the ability to do so, I was just kind of like, well, okay, I'll just stick with this for now. It wasn't until I started up the YouTube thing again, with you know, out of the spite, the YouTube spite channel, I guess I could call it, that I was like, you know what? I think now, since I'm older, now that there's more knowledge about it everywhere, I'm gonna go ahead and try it out. And so I started initially with the Vroid stuff
Right.
because it was the easiest one to get into, and you know it kind of still gives you what you want to be able to do. Like there's definitely a lot more to Vroid Studio that you can do, especially if you know 3D modeling and stuff. But it is definitely a good like starter one,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll get back to that. Something else that I want to kind of set like small rant about with the community with that, but I'll get back to that later. But um, then I was like, okay, well, now that I have this, I also want to get like a 2D model, but I don't know how to live 2D. So I'm going to practice live 2D. So I spent about, I want to say a good week learning, practicing, trying to figure out how to use live 2D, made a little test model using a Puyo character, used that for a little bit, and then I finally drew my own character, and it's what I use now. It's very smooth. It's very me. Like it shows the emotions that I'm usually used to showing.
Yeah,
Kind of
I
wish
agree.
that
It's awesome.
kind of wish the eyebrow tracker worked, but it doesn't for some reason. I think that's just my camera. I don't know, but um, yeah. So it's a very good model. I made it myself. I'm very proud of it.
It's awesome.
Um,
I'm gonna try to see if I could get like clips of you, like of your streams and stuff, to highlight it, because I do want to show it off. And I want to highlight this specifically. I just kind of want to like say it like kind of like on the side. But Joy is like literally, and you know what? Fuck it. Like, you're my homie. Like, I'm gonna fucking gush over your talents and stuff. But like, you are literally one of the best artists that I've ever have the privilege to be like friends with. Like, this dude, like literally, like, he adapts to like a lot of styles. He has a lot of styles. There's not a style that I haven't seen him try to like perfect that isn't amazing. Like, he has done art for my OC Emiko, and it's just like really, really a fucking amazing. And if you go back to like his timeline on his streams, like, there's different art styles of his OC too, and the current rendition of his OC, which you'll probably see on the screen right now, is amazing. Like, I love it. Like, you have told me the lore of your OC, and it's just like super awesome. But I think that the current version of your OC or your avatar is just amazing. Like, obviously through time, I know that you're gonna learn more about like live 2D and stuff like that, and how to perfect the model to how you want it. But dude, like, just want to say that because honestly, like, I don't want to, go this whole however long we go for and not mention that, because I mean, I got to, you know.
yeah. I will say I did have a big shock when I did my very first art stream on Twitch, and there were people kind of shocked by how I drew because I'm not knocking anyone down by saying this because no, everyone has their own styles, but there's a lot of people who are shy who shy away from vector art. Um, and a lot of people just kind of they sketch the model and they draw it out as smooth as they can, but they never decide to use the pen tool. And honestly, I could have sworn it was a lot more used than I thought, but yeah, when I first started doing my first art stream and people saw me using the vector, like the pen tool, uh, they were like, "Oh, you like to do vector art? Well, no wonder your lines are so smooth and clean." It's like, how do you even do this? You're such a good vector artist. And I'm like, I thought everyone did this. I only did it because I thought everyone was like, this is how everyone kind of did their finishing touches on their art.
Right.
So I don't know, like, I'm so used to it now because like, unlike with sketching where once you sketch it down, unless you erase it and redraw it, like, that's how you fix lines. Whereas with the vector art or the vector tool, if you have a line, you can just edit it right then and there, like, move it, increase the size, decrease it, like, whatever you want with that line, uh, as you're working on it, and it's just, like, again, I thought everyone did it, so it was weird to me, but yeah, like, I kind of feel also that I'm a cheater in a way because it's like using the vector, it kind of feels like tracing, you know? Because
Yeah.
you're doing adjustments to make it look, I guess, artificial,
Hmm.
but I kind of try to make it to where it seems less like that, but still clean. I don't know. Like that's probably one of my biggest flaws to what I feel about my own artwork. Like it looks too artificial, you know?
Mm.
But
I mean,
it
I guess when you, because I mean, you are, what's the saying? How does the saying go? You are your worst critic or something. You are your own worst critic or something like that. I'm really bad with
yeah.
like expressions, so don't quote me on that. But yeah, like I feel like once when you are so hyper focused on your own thing, you've been looking at the same thing for over like for long, however long you've been working on one thing, it's kind of like hard for you not to like find little flaws or just some to not be overcritical of your own work. And I get that, with like video editing and stuff. Obviously I don't have like a much, I say that I don't have like an artistic bone in my body, but there's different avenues of being artistic. I like to think that I express that with video editing and just different things that I do. You obviously you literally meet the definition of artistic by being an artist. But I think everybody is like super hypercritical of their own art, and might come as a surprise to you when people come to you and say the nice things that they do about your art. Because like personally, like me being an outsider and just watching you, because I remember on YouTube you would do several art streams, and just watching you do your art and just kind of like just watching you and hearing what you say, like, oh, like I'm gonna use this, or maybe I'll admit I'll try this, or just there are things that I never would imagine, like obviously like I've never, like obviously I've drawn and stuff when I was a teenager, but I kind of let that go. But it's just one of those things that like on the outside looking in, it just looks so amazing. And I feel like a lot of people who maybe are doing art who are good at it, and seeing maybe you do it the way that you do it kind of like inspires them to maybe try out new things. Because that's another thing, when you are so hyper focused on doing it a certain way and then you watch somebody else do it, it's like, whoa, what the fuck, like why didn't I think of doing it that way, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Um, Definitely, and, I do feel like you're right. I do tend to criticize my own stuff a lot more, and I think that is definitely the case. No, I will say there are moments where I'm like, "Wow, I did such a great job," and, like, I don't know, I guess I'm just the kind of person where, like, it feels wrong gloating about my own stuff,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm just like, "I hope you guys enjoy it, I thank you if you like it," type of stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Um and I think the only time where I was ever like, "Yeah, this looks great," like, consistently, when I was doing the, Utopia art, and I'm gonna go ahead and send you some stuff so that way if you want to, you can, like, kind of flash it on screen or something,
Oh, for
for
sure,
the
thank you.
Utopia stuff, but this was probably the one time where I was like, "I'm actually really good at doing this,"
You
and I don't
are,
know if it
dude.
was just, like, doing the shapes, I don't know if it was just, like, my association with shapes, the fact that I guess vector art really helped me out with this. I'm not entirely sure, but it was just also really fun, kind of like this new art project type thing. Like I haven't done it in a while, because the game kind of died down. Nobody's really asking for it anymore, so I haven't really done anything for it. But
Mm-hmm.
it was still fun to do when it was popular. I feel like after that was when I really got back into doing art again. and like really focused on shapes, vectors, stuff like that. So I also have to thank Metopia a lot for the friends that I've made
Yeah,
on Twitch because Metopia introduced me to a lot, and I cannot take that game for granted anymore.
yeah, no,
Um,
Metopia's fucking awesome. And I remember you were doing this series where that's what your streams were about for a while. And then another thing is that you were, it's kind of like fan art, I guess, for other people. And it's just really awesome because it's a different type of fan art. Like not a lot of people. I've watched a couple people and people just kind of play the game. People usually like me, for example, like I get my memes from other people just memeing and stuff, but you were able to take these other VTubers and just completely make them just to kind of like into their own me version. And I think that was really awesome to see you able to do that. I know that you did one for my OC. I know that you did one for pretty much like a bunch of different VTubers and just people that you had interactions with on Twitch and Twitter and stuff like that. So it was really awesome to see that. And I
yeah,
think I I have to agree with you. I think after you doing the whole VTubing thing, I kind of saw like
there you
you
go.
being lit up to just do more art and just continue doing that. So it was really nice to see you kind of have like this new avenue to express yourself with your art, and you fucking did amazing. Because I'm gonna flash a couple of Joy's kind of me's that he did on the screen here on this editing, but it's really awesome to see you find this new avenue of art.
Yeah, and I will say if like not to plug myself, but if
No,
anyone
feel free to
does
do it,
still
man.
play the game, if anyone does still play the game and you want something created of like an OC or something, I will say I don't do pre-existing characters because I do want my Mii's to be like free of copyright, free of like that sort of stuff.
Right.
I don't like no memes and whatnot. But if you have an OC or something you want me to make because you like the way that I do my Mii stuff, go ahead, ask me. I do want to continue making it. It's just the game kind of died down, so I haven't really had any commissions or anything. And well, commission's not the right word because I don't charge for these because it would be uh, first off, I think it would kind of be illegal to do so because it's a Nintendo property. I don't want to charge for making something on Nintendo property, that sort of stuff. But it's still fun to do. So
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And I've tried, I've tried, but I'm a very impatient person. Like that's
yeah,
the biggest thing with me. Like I'm very impatient, so like I literally have to be super motivated to want to do it, to actually do it. But yeah, man, it's really awesome. I love it. I love your memes, not just the ones that you created for like other people, but I remember I asked you if you could do one for Ray from Evangelion, and it came out perfect. So I want to thank you for that too. But
yeah, that is. I will say, you if you downloaded that one, you are now the only one who has that one because I did delete it from my
oh,
list.
yeah, I
So
am. I have her in my team currently.
okay, good. So yeah, you are the only one with that me, because it has been removed from my archives because again, I wanted to like have no copyrighted stuff on there. So
Right, right, and that's completely understandable. You want to make like your own, like sort of like besides, because there's like a bunch of like different versions of Ray when it comes to me's and stuff. So it's understandable that you
yeah,
just wanted to have your own original work to not only just not risk anything, but it looks better. It looks better that you have your own,
mhm,
just your own straight up just work and stuff. But moving aside from the whole content creation thing for a bit, there was one thing that you for sure wanted me to bring up when I asked you what kind of topics you would want to talk about, and that is
yes.
ghost stories. If you want to kind of like introduce the topic, because I feel like I said, that was something that you for sure wanted me to bring up. Is there like a particular reason why you wanted to talk about it? Is there like a ghost story that kind of like made you who you are today, sort of like influenced a lot of your things in your life or something? Like why is it that you necessarily wanted me to bring that up, or is it just a topic that really interests you?
It's a little bit of both. I will say that. It's not. It's less of a ghost story and more so a ghost experience that I've actually personally encountered. I will say before talking about this, I will preface this by saying I know there are people who don't believe in this stuff. I know there are people who absolutely believe in this stuff, and there's also the people in between. But uh, just know that a lot of this kind of happened in my childhood. Um, I haven't really had any experiences as an adult because I guess now I'm too focused on it. And, if something were to happen, I would more than likely record it or
Right. Yeah.
miss the recording. But just know that this stuff has happened to me, whether be paranormal, scientifically explainable, I don't know, but it's just something I wanted to share because it did kind of lead me down a different path. So, as for my experiences, but before I get into like the big story, I want to share that I did have a couple like smaller experiences growing up, and one of those experiences was that when I was sleeping over at one of my friend's house, I felt like I was unwanted, not by his family, but by something else. Like it just felt like this nerve, like this eerie feeling of like I don't want you here type deal.
Yeah. Like a
And
presence.
yeah, like a presence of that. And when I was sleeping over there, like I was actually sleeping on his bed. He went to go sleep on the couch. It wasn't even like an hour that passed by, and I was hearing all these noises, all these creaks, all like I'm sure some of it was the house settling because it was during the winter time, but then other sounds just didn't seem right.
Mm-hmm.
Like something that you're not that's not that. So then I kind of woke him up, which I felt bad doing, but I was like, "Hey, can we swap places? I'll sleep on the couch." I just gave him the excuse of I feel bad taking your bed from you. Go ahead, go sleep on your bed. So I went to go sleep on the couch in the living room. Well, I would say like 10, 15 minutes later, I started hearing someone walking in the kitchen, and
Oh
it
my
sounded
god,
like
dude.
someone wearing high heels,
That's a
you know?
very
And
distinguishable noise too.
yeah, and no one in the house wore those shoes. No one in the house even owns anything like that. Um, because I had asked the morning after, like, "Hey, was someone in the kitchen last night?" And no one was in the kitchen, and I was like, "Okay." And I asked my friend, like, "Hey, does anyone in your family wear high heels?" He's like, "No, no one really wears that because it was a very Mexican household. They don't really wear that stuff, right?" So, yeah, it was just this really weird thing, so I kinda just slept, with blanket over my head, the usual protection type deal as a kid, covered my ears and just forced myself to sleep through everything. So that was probably, like, the first experience I had. And then now for, like, the big story, like, the reason why I wanted to bring this up, what kinda changed my life in a way.
Right.
Uh, when I was growing up, I suffered through autophobia, and autophobia is basically the fear of being alone mentally, physically, emotionally. And because of how my life kind of went, I kind of garnered that fear because it was like it's kind of how I felt, especially as I started living with my dad, which is where this experience happened. It was just like this feeling like I was unwanted, right? I was never suicidal though. Like I never wanted to bring that to myself. Like I never wanted to hurt myself. It was
Mm-hmm.
just this is how I'm feeling. I'm just gonna live with it type deal. Um, and it scared me. But as I was doing research later on in my life, like after the experience happened, um, I realized that autophobia can indeed cause hallucinations. So this is why I'm saying like I don't know if it was a hallucination, I don't know if it was paranormal, or I don't know if it was something scientific. But the story. So I was living at my dad's house, and my dad and my brother, they went shopping. So no one was at home. It was just me by myself. I was just chilling on the dining room table, kind of drawing, making a manga that I was very passionate about back then. And I was listening to music on my headset. All of a sudden, as it's going from the fade from like one song to the next, I hear like footsteps in the hallway next to me. Um, and so I like take off my headset, I look over to the right, towards the hallway, and as I look, there's this hard to explain, I want to say like inverted skin person
Oh my god, dude.
walking, but like their hands and feet were like swapped, but it was still I can't really explain it. Like it was just this horror that I saw.
Right.
And it went from one side of the hallway to the room where I normally sleep. Like it walked into my room. And it scared me so much that I left the house, door unlocked but still closed. And I went to the neighbor's house and waited for my dad to get home. And that night when I went to sleep, because I had like not forgotten about it, I was still scared, of course, but it was just in the back of my mind, like, okay, maybe I didn't actually see anything. Well, that night, I had a dream that the my room was getting distorted. There were people laughing at me, like shadow things laughing at me, shadow things just in my room. I woke up. I swear I saw like something at my door, and it just kind of fled as I looked at it. Like it was like a really quick, just there, gone. And I was just sitting on my bed for like a good 10, 15 minutes, just waiting, for something to happen, but nothing did. So then I quickly ran to my dad's room, fell asleep. All right. A couple months passed by, and my brother is now celebrating Christmas with my mom over in like a city like 6 hours away.
Mm-hmm.
So he wasn't there. It was just me and my dad. And so one night I go to sleep and I feel this rubbing on my shoulder, like someone putting their hand on my shoulder, gently rubbing down all the way to like I want to say my waist, right? So from shoulder to the waist, just someone's hand rubbing. And it was a slow rub. It wasn't like a quick, like a like a tap or anything. It was like slow, calming rub.
Mm-hmm.
And the weird part was this didn't feel malicious in any way. It was actually kind of calming, like someone was trying to calm me for something. And then after that, I heard my brother's voice at the end of my hall calling out to me saying, "Hey Nick, let's go play." And I was like in my sleepy slumber, like super, I was like, "No, Alex, go back to bed. It's midnight or something." Then I realized he's not here.
Oh my
He's over at
god,
my
dude.
mom's place.
Yeah.
And I'm like immediately shoot up. I'm like, who just said that? And that's when like the rub that I was feeling, that gentle rub was just it kind of irked me a bit now, you know? Like it wasn't continuous, it was just that one rub, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of lulled me into this false sense of security, I guess. And that's when that kind of like shot at me. And I was like, oh crap, something's going on. So I kind of refused to go back into that room for a while, a good while. I started like sleeping in my brother's room. Nothing really happened in there. And this next part is kind of why I don't know if it was paranormal all in my head, because if it was just that, I would think it was all in my head. I would think it was the hallucinations from the autophobia that I was suffering. But then I invited my friend over to like come play Guitar Hero because the new Guitar Hero had come out. I think it was Guitar Hero World Tour or something like that. It was the one after three. I don't remember the exact one.
Yeah, it was a world tour,
Um,
I think.
yeah. So we invited him over to come play with us. I left the room while he was playing a song. I went to go get a drink. The moment that I get to the fridge, door slams. I go in, or I start running to the door because I'm like, oh, what happened? As I'm there at the door, about to open the door, uh, my friend opens the door in a panic, like really opens it quickly, runs out the room, and as we're in the living room, he tells me that something pulled the strap so hard that he lost his breath,
Oh my god.
and then he had to get out of there. So that alone is like, okay, so this is definitely something paranormal then. But I don't know. So that was the last thing that happened though. After that, there was nothing for like a good few months. Like I would say a good year and a half. Like nothing happened after that.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad got married, or remarried to my stepmom. Their children moved in, so I had like stepsisters. They took the room that I used to be in, and I went to go and moved into my brother's room with my brother, and everything was fine. And then as until a day where we were all kind of together in a car, and we were driving to this event. I don't remember what the event was. That's not really the important part. But as we were driving there, the youngest stepsister randomly just brings up like, "Hey, last night did someone try coming into our room because the door opened?" And then after that, she started talking about a few experiences she was having.
Oh my
So,
god, dude. Like, oh shit.
so like the first part of this, like I want to say that first thing, like the thing that I saw, like the for sure thing that I saw, I want to say that was a mixture of what was actually there plus the hallucinations I was having.
Right.
I want to say that the dream of the shadow people, that was the hallucination.
Mm-hmm.
And the gentle rub was probably, I'd like to see it as a family member trying to calm me down from all this. But
Right.
then everything else, there was definitely something there as well. So that was probably like the scariest experience that I've had with any sort of like paranormal activity. And even the stuff that happened at night could also be classified as night terrors, which are things that do commonly happen to people. It's not paranormal, it's just your mind playing tricks on you.
Mm-hmm.
And normally that's how that would get explained away, and I would be okay with that if it wasn't for the thing that happened to my friend, which was in the middle of the day, and the thing that happened to my sister. Or the other stuff that was happening to her. Not so much the nighttime stuff, but the fact that she was also experiencing these things, and it wasn't just me, and it was also in that same room, right?
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, after that, nothing happened. It was just quiet. And even to this day, I don't know because I don't live there anymore, right? So I don't know if anything else has happened, but from what I
Jeez.
know, nothing else happened.
How
Um,
how old were you when that first instance happened? When you said that you saw what you saw?
I was in 8th grade.
Eighth grade. Okay.
So yeah, so I was about 13, maybe around 14 years old, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I could see how that like completely, because at that age it's like you're young, you know, you, I don't know, like I feel like at that age too, I and I'll get into some of the stories, but I think at that age it's like you're really impressionable, so stuff like that really kind of like you don't forget about those things, you know? Like that is like
Right.
engraved into you for a while. Um Feel free to not answer this question if you don't want to, but like do you still have the autophobia?
Not anymore. And that is the part of this that kind of made me change the way I was. Because once I did the research on it and I found out that a lot of that could have been caused through hallucinations, that's when I really was like, okay, I need to get rid of this. I need to get this phobia out of my mind. I need to like do something, because I don't want to go through that again. Um, and of course, as I was saying, like some of it could have been paranormal, but I feel like a lot of it might have just been in my mind. Um, and so, like, even if even in the back of my mind, I'm thinking if some of that was just from my autophobia, I have to stop this. Like, and one of the things that really helped me out through this was honestly just meditation
Mm-hmm.
and meeting more online friends and people, even people in real life who were actually there for me and not because of a title or because they felt bad for me or something like that. Because I know in high school, once I moved back to my mom's place, it was like a whole fresh start. Nobody knew who I was. Nobody took me as the son of the coach because my dad was the coach of my middle school. So there were a lot of people who were only friends with me for that reason. Um, but yeah, when I moved back to my mom's place and I had started fresh in high school again for like the last 2 years of high school, that's kind of when it all died down because I had actually met a group of friends who were into the same stuff I was, and like I wasn't afraid of losing them anymore, even though we're no longer friends now, which is kind of ironic. Uh, but but yeah, like it just kind of opening myself up more, not being quiet, not being reserved, like getting rid of these negative thoughts through meditation, rather than just unleashing them with anger or something like that, talking about this with a therapist, that sort of stuff. Like it all really helped me kind of kill the phobia.
Right.
I want to say that there is still a tinge of it still there because you can't fully remove a phobia,
Right. Yeah.
but it is definitely a lot less than what it used to be.
Well,
Yeah, so that's kind of how it helped me change the way I am now.
right. Well, I am glad that I am glad to hear that you know over time you kind of, because I think that's the best thing that you could do if you really want to get rid of that is to just do your own research, maybe talk to people who have had similar experiences like that, and just kind of have that fresh start and realize, okay, well, I don't. This is not something that I want to be dealing with for a long time, and I could kind of relate to that, not necessarily with the autophobia, but with me finding out and coming to terms with my own anxiety and stuff like that. Because for a while, like, you hear about anxiety and you hear about stuff like depression and stuff, and if you have never had like really traumatic experiences, you don't, it's hard for you to kind of relate to people who go through anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
But over time, and I've mentioned this a lot, like on my channel and on streams and on previous episodes and stuff, but there was like a year, 2017, which was one of the most hard, most stressful, most traumatic like years of my life, still to this day. And when I eventually, when that year finished and I came back and everything was better, I developed anxiety, and for a while it was really hard for me to come to terms with that. But after doing my own research, talking to my doctor, and just finally admitting to myself that I have anxiety, it's much more easier to kind of come to terms with it and sort of learn. Once you get over that hurdle of like coming to terms with it, you start to do research about how to deal with it, how to manage it, and how to not, pretty much not let it ruin your entire day to day. Because for a bit, that's exactly what it was doing to me. It was just ruining my days. Like, it was crippling, right? But kind of bringing it back to what you were mentioning, I've never really had anything like that too crazy. I do relate to the story where you said that you saw what you saw, but you know, growing up, my dad's side of the family has always been the side of the family that has been a little bit more sort of reserved, sort of more tame. If there was ever a party where both sides of the family, my mom's side and my dad's side of the family, if we ever had a party, my mom's side of the family was more clearly the side of the family that is completely more wild. And that's kind of where I get my, like, just how I am, you know, from my mom's side of the family. But my grandparents from my dad's side, they were really, my grandpa was really strict and more reserved, and my grandma, my nana, as I call her, my nana, she was always really nice, but she was extremely religious. She would always bring me like pamphlets from her church. She would always tell me, like, when she was asked, like, checking up on me, she would always make sure that I'm still accepting God in my life. And I'm not gonna get into the whole God thing and religions thing, because I don't like to bring that sort of thing into like my stuff and stuff. But yeah, she would always like make sure, like, oh, like, do you pray, you know, have you, like, you know, do you answer to God and stuff like that. And
Yeah,
growing
like
up, oh, go for it.
I was just gonna say, like, yeah, my grandmother's the same way.
Yeah, and you know, especially as a teenager, it was really hard because, you know, I loved her, I love her to death, and may she rest in peace. But it was always something that I was just super awkward about. But growing up, I used to live in Mexico, and I for until I was like 6, 7 years old, I used to live in Mexico. And how where I lived, it was like a big property. Like my parents' house, my house was in the same territory as where my grandpa and my grandma's house was at. So it was really easy for me to just like walk over there and just like say hi or hang out with them for a while. And there would be times where, for whatever reason, we would spend the night there. And one of the feelings that I always remember when I spent the night there was just, it could be like the middle of the summer. And in Mexico, where I lived, it was like really hot, like during the summer. It could be the middle of the summer, and all I remember is just feeling like cold, like when I would walk in there. And it was not because, like I said, they were really wonderful people, really amazing, but it was just something where I remember just sleeping in my grandma's room and just feeling this really like weird feeling of like, I don't feel right here. Like, I don't feel welcome here. Not because of them, but like there was just like this outside presence that was just like making me feel cold, making me feel really unwelcome. And the house was just like really, it was really structured really weirdly. Like I kind of like associated with like a house that could be in like a psychological thriller, because the way that it was laid out was just really awkward and really weird. So it just like, that's the feeling that I always walked out of that house
Mm.
like feeling. And one of the things that I kind of want to talk about too, since you talked about like your story and what you saw and stuff, is growing up, I had this really bad case of sleep paralysis. when I was a teenager,
Right.
when I used to live with my parents. I had really really bad sleep paralysis, and I remember the very first time that I dealt with sleep paralysis. I woke up in the middle of the night, and I don't know why I just woke up, but it felt like a dream. It felt like I was still sleeping, but I knew that I was awake, and I was trying to move and I couldn't. I don't know if you've ever had sleep paralysis.
Yes, I've actually had it. There was a moment in my life for about a good 2 or 3 months where every day I would wake up with sleep paralysis. It was
Yeah,
bad.
and you know how it feels like you're trying to move but you just can't. You're just awake but you can't move. And that would really I don't know, it just really stuck with me. But I tried to move, and it was one of those days. I don't know why. I think it was because I think I had a PS3 in my room, so my little sister was always trying to like spend the night in my room because she loved playing the PS3. So it was just one of those days where she just fell asleep in my room. And I remember waking up, and I couldn't move, and I was feeling like super scared. And I remember trying to reach out to her and like speak. My lips were moving, but I would not be able to say anything. And
Yeah, those are
and
the worst when you have it and someone's there and you can't do anything about it.
exactly. And I mean, it's good because I heard that you don't really want anybody to wake you up or shock you when you're going through sleep paralysis. I think that I heard that it's like really bad. But anyways, um I was trying to do that and I couldn't. And I remember just trying to like, okay, like just fall asleep, just go to sleep, like it's gonna be okay. And I remember trying to fall asleep, and it's kind of like the same thing where what you said. I don't know if it was paranormal or if it was just some sort of hallucination or it's just my mind playing a trick on me. But I remember eventually almost falling asleep, but I couldn't. So I opened my eyes again, and all I see, because at the time in my parents' house I had like this like single bed, like a twin bed, where it was just like, it was just made for me. And on the edge of the bed in front of me, I saw that, like I saw like a shadowy figure, and I couldn't see its eyes. I could just see it kind of moving, and it goes from the edge of my bed to the side of my bed, right? Like right next to me. And at that point, I remember just freaking out and just closing my eyes, and just like that, like hoping that it would go away, hoping that it would go away. And I eventually just like fell asleep. And when I woke up, I asked my little sister, and I was like, "Hey, like, did you see this thing? Like, did you feel anything when you were sleeping?" And she just said, "No, I didn't feel anything." And it really it really fucked me up, because for a while I was just really scared to be in my own room and like just fall asleep in my room. And even till this day, and my wife could like kind of like attest to this, when I was growing up in that room, I always fell asleep with some sort of like light on, whether that be the TV, my own computer, just something, right? And it,
Right.
in my room in my parents' house, I didn't have closet doors, so it was just an open closet. Here in my current house, the where I live, there is doors, right? There's doors, and every single night, like I have to close the closet doors. And I don't know why. It's just something. I don't know if it was from childhood, but if it kind of, I know that it stems from that, where I have to close the closet doors. And trust me, if I could, I would still sleep with the TV on, like just something like that. But obviously I have to respect my wife,
Yeah.
because she's like, she's always slept with like the lights off, and I do too. I've gotten accustomed to it, but it's just something that I know that I'd still be doing. But it's just things like that. And it also doesn't help that as a teenager, I did a podcast episode where we talk about creepy pastas and stuff. And as a teenager, I was super obsessed with things. Like I'm very gullible when it comes to certain things. And there's
Yeah.
just certain aspects of creepy pastas that really entranced me and really interested me. So growing up as a teenager, just being edgy, just being kind of like in the scene kid era, like scene kid phase, I was really, really into creepypastas. And I'd always felt, I had this big window in my room as a teenager, and I always felt like I was gonna wake up one day, or I'm gonna look out that window, and there's gonna be somebody peering in, not one of my friends, not one of my family members, but like just something peering in. And
Right.
that always kind of fucked me up. But yeah, dude, I don't know. It's fucking crazy. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, a couple of things for the window thing. I know exactly how you feel because my brother's room in that same house, had a window like that. This huge window, pretty much spanned the entire like center wall.
Right, exactly.
And the worst part was my brother, like his bed was just right there next to the window. So I'm like, at least we have curtains, I guess. But
Yeah.
I know exactly how you felt about that. As for the shadow figure at the edge of your bed, I know that when, especially when sleep paralysis is involved, that's where I'm like, yeah, it's probably like a night terror. It's not like it's just your brain playing tricks on you because it's
Yeah.
like you
Uh,
have this fear, you have this release of all these chemicals, and now it's just like, okay, there's something there, but there's really nothing there, and that's pretty much what a night terror is.
mhm.
Um, and then that's why it was so hard for me to believe all the stuff that even though it happened to me, it's like, was this a night terror? Was this my hallucination? Was this the, you know, the paranoia, the phobia, or was something actually there? And then, it wasn't until something happened in the midday where I was like, okay, yeah, there's something there, But so yeah, like I know exactly what you're feeling about that situation. I didn't know though that if someone waking you up in the middle of sleep paralysis is a bad idea. I haven't done any research into that part, but that was interesting to me, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
I read it up on it because, like I said, it was something that would frequently happen to me, and one of the biggest factors of that happening was I like to sleep. So when I sleep just like facing the like my I'm looking at the roof and stuff.
mhm.
But I sleep straight, like just straight, and I heard that that's one of the worst ways to kind of sleep, and that's one of the worst. That's one of the factors of sleep paralysis. Like when your body is just like that, you're just laying down without like it's just really weird. Like it's really complicated, but like if you're not bending your leg or if you're not in any sort of motion, you're just straight up sleeping just like that. It's one of the biggest factors of you being able to, have sleep paralysis. But I read into it, and I read that it could cause like some sort of shock to your body, because when you're in that state, your body's already like in this shock. That's why you don't move. Like it's just a combination of a bunch of different things. So when somebody is forcing you to try to wake up when you're in that state, I heard that it could be really bad for you. I don't know because I've never had anybody had that happen. Usually when that happens to me, like I said, like it's happened to me here where I live with my wife, and like I said, I can't move. I can't reach over to her to try to wake me up or anything, and I'm glad that I don't, because I've learned to just write it out. Like it doesn't happen for much longer than I want to say 5 minutes, but those 5 minutes
Right.
when you're in that state, it feels like hours. So
Especially when like in that state, your brain is still kind of semi shut, so you're also like having these auditory hallucinations as well.
exactly, yeah. And I feel like there's every time that happens. It hasn't happened recently because I've learned to either sleep on my side or just be in some sort of way, some sort of
Right.
motion. But I do remember like just being in that state and just waiting. Like I know something's gonna happen. Like I know I'm gonna see something and it's gonna freak me out. And I've had instances where I haven't seen something like that besides the first time, but I felt like something. I felt like pressure, like if somebody were to just lay down on me, like on top of me. And I've also felt like that, like the rubbing on my arm and just like really weird sort of like feelings when that happens. But you're probably right. You're most definitely probably right. Where it's like it's just a bunch of like chemicals in your head, and it's just like that causes either hallucinations or just those feelings. But it's
Right.
still like something that it's hard to not think back and like being like, God damn, like was it paranormal or was it just my mind essentially playing tricks on me?
Yeah, and I also want to say I am an avid believer of ghosts. I've even done research on exorcisms, like not like exorcists, like like with the movie or anything like that, but like the actual way of performing an exorcism. I've done research into that so that if any sort of stuff like that were to happen to me, I would know what to do. So I do have a strong belief in the paranormal for sure, but I also do know that sometimes it isn't the paranormal.
Right.
It's just something else. And I know a lot of people kind of make fun of me, especially when I start showing these videos of like, "Ooh, there's something paranormal's happening on camera," and it's like, "Oh, it's all fake and whatnot." And it's like, well, I can see it being fake for some of these things, but then how do you explain this thing?
Exactly.
You know,
Like,
like this particular thing, like if this was just you witnessing it and, you know, it was nighttime, then okay, sleep terror. But then how'd the camera catch it?
right. Yeah, yeah. And I agree. I for the longest time, well, not really. Actually, you know what? Like, I've always kind of been on the fence of it. But to be completely honest with you, I do believe in that because it's like, I don't know. It's just a bunch of like different things that I believe in that kind of like lead me to, well, if you believe in this, how are you not going to believe in the paranormal? You know? And even
Right.
and I know this, and a big factor of me actually being a believer of that is because I know that my nana, my dad's mom, she believed in that sort of stuff, and she was super religious, and she would always kind of talk about that stuff. Like, yes, like I have had interactions with previous family members, and she would tell me this, and it would always, as a kid, you don't really think about it. You just think that, oh well, she's in prayer. She talks to, you know,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
but in reality it's much more than that, you know. And when you take a look at the bigger picture, like, how do you explain exorcism? How do you explain this and that? Like, you could explain, like you said, you could explain certain instances, but other instances it's like, well, damn, like, how do you explain that? You know, it's hard.
Also, kind of going back a little bit with the whole light and sleeping thing. I want to say ever since that incident, I haven't been able to sleep with the lights fully off as well. And instead of it kind of dying down, it actually got worse.
Mm-hmm.
Actually have like a lamp in my room that I legit cannot sleep without that lamp on. This and I've tried, you know, like there will be nights where I would be like, okay, I need to turn off this lamp and go to bed. So I turn off the lamp, I get in my bed, I close my eyes, and then immediately head starts thinking about things like 100 miles an hour. Like, what if this happens? What if that happens?
Yeah.
Oh, what is that? You know, I start seeing, you know, like I start imagining that I'm seeing things, you know, and it's like, okay, nope, turn the lamp back on, immediately fall asleep.
Yeah, no, and I like, even to this day, like, I have those nights where, obviously, like I said, I completely changed when I got married and I started living with my wife. But I got accustomed to just sleeping without the lights on and stuff. It also kind of helps that in my room we have like this window, right, and it doesn't, it kind of helps, but at the same time it doesn't, because I have a window right like behind my head where I sleep. So it's like, well, shit, am I gonna peer and there's gonna be something? But I say it helps because it gives us the street lamp light, so it kind of helps, you know. It's not completely dark in the room, but there are
Right.
nights where I still feel like it's too fucking dark in here. And it doesn't help that our ceiling is painted black. So
Oh my
yeah,
god.
it's painted black. So I there are times where like I feel like it's too dark in here. So I literally just turn on my phone, I put it right next to myself on the nightstand, and I just let some video play, like some hour-long video play, and I just fall asleep to that. And even to this day, like recently, whenever we have to stay at a hotel or something, I always have to have one of the lights on, whether it be the bathroom, the hallway, something, well, at least one light that's not super like distracting to the point where it's going to keep you up. I always have to have it because I just can't, like, I cannot, like, it's
Do
always
you
it.
also sorry to cut you off a little bit, but this is like while it's fresh in my mind because this is pretty important to what you're saying.
Mhm.
Do you also have it to where when you have these lights on and you're fast asleep, like you're dreaming, you are absolutely zonked out. If someone turns off that light, do you immediately wake up?
Yes, I do. I do.
I'm the
I
same way.
and this stems back to when I was a teenager. Whenever, and it's not because I heard somebody coming to my room or something, like, let's say my mom comes in, she hears the TV or something, like, I would feel like the light being turned off and I would immediately wake
Yeah.
up. And I know that it still happens, right? I know that if some for some whatever reason one of the lights in the hotel will be turned off, I would wake up. And it's just instinct. I don't know what happens or what causes it, but I know that I would wake up.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing to me. Like no one has ever turned off the light uh whenever I was sleeping because people usually respect that I sleep this way. But if it's like the power goes out or something like that and I'm fast asleep when it happens, I'll immediately wake up because well the light's off, the light turned off, the AC turned on, you know, like even if the AC doesn't turn off, like even if there's no noise whatsoever, right? Like it's silent, but then the power goes out, and it's just the light that goes out. Like, there's no click, there's no AC shutting off sound, there's nothing like that. I can still somehow sense the light has been turned off, and I'll wake up immediately.
Yeah, that happens to me too. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't happen too much nowadays. Because usually at that point when I wake up, it's already daytime. But yeah, I know that it still happens because like I've been in situations like that, and I would just immediately wake up. But
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add to that. Like any other like instances or just things that you want to say, that involve that.
I I have a funny instance, but also one other thing that I kind of do that I kind of catch myself doing, um, but I honestly can't fix because it's just too hard for me. I Whenever I set up my computer desk or wherever it is that I know I'm gonna be staying in my room for an extended period of time, I cannot have my back towards the door at all, ever.
Oh,
If I'm
yeah.
Yeah, like, even right now as we're talking, my desk is in a situation where my back is against the corner of a wall,
Mm-hmm.
and I can see exactly what is, like, my closet door, my room door that leads to the hallway, and my bed. Like, I can see all 3 of those things from where I'm at
You know what's funny?
because
You know what's funny? Just kind of like to add to that, I think back to all my situations like that, like in my previous rooms, like in my parents' room. But I've always had my setup right next to the door. Like even now, I my setup is literally right next to my door, so I know when somebody's coming in, I'm looking at the door. And even at my parents' house, it was the exact same way. I would be right next to the door. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's coincidence or me knowing, but it's just it's always been like that.
yeah, and it always irks me too, like, if I'm seeing, like, an IRL streamer where they're streaming and you can see their doors open, their backs against the door, I'm like, "I can't focus on what they're doing, I can't focus on what they're saying, I'm looking at that door."
Yeah, yeah.
Like, something's gonna happen, and they're not gonna know, and, like, it just paranoids me, like, but yeah. As for another experience that happened, and this one's kind of a funny one because after this, like, it was like the one and only time that it happened. But this was when my mom was still living in like this small house, or I was living with her with my brother, my stepdad. Like, we were really young. This was probably like in, I want to say, if not sixth grade, then fifth grade. Like, it was that long ago.
Right.
Um, we had this like, you know those, like, weighted toys where it's like there's, like, like, sand glued to a certain part of it so that way it's always standing up no matter how you roll it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, we had a ball, it was, like, a big purple ball, and it had that weight on it, but there was, like, a smiley face on the ball, so that way the weight would always stand up to where the face was, like, always right side up, right? And it was something that I won at school during like a PE event. So I had brought it home. I put it in my closet. It was like a fun thing that I played with like a little bit, and then I kind of put it away, right? Like usually how that kind of stuff works. So I put it in my closet. I want to say a couple months pass by, right? Like nothing happens. I'm not feeling anything. There's nothing paranormal in this house. Like it was just fine, right?
Hmm.
One day, my brother and I are in the restroom. We're brushing our teeth, getting ready for the day. Parents are downstairs. They're cooking breakfast, and lo and behold, uh, the ball comes rolling down the hallway, stops right in front of the door to the bathroom, and the face is looking right at me and my brother.
What the fuck, dude? That's like like not like to make it more funny. Like that's some like Chef Boyardee shit. I don't know if you've seen the
Right? Yeah,
fucking
I've seen
like
those. Yeah.
where they just follows the kid to their house. Like holy crap, that's creepy, dude.
Yeah, so after that, nothing happened. Before that, nothing happened. Like, it was just that one instance. And that's kind of like why I find it hilarious. Like, at first, I was terrified because I was like, what the hell? You know?
Yeah.
But then looking back at it now, it's like, why was that the only thing that happened?
Yeah. Oh my god,
So,
dude.
but actually, you know what? Thinking about it now, I did take that ball with me when I went to go live with my dad.
Do you still
And
have it?
I don't have it anymore. As a matter of fact, we got rid of it along with a lot of my other toys. When my dad thought I was too old to play with this stuff, he was that kind of father. But
Oh
you
jeez.
know, but yeah, he got rid of it, so it was long gone. But I will say that ball was there during those instances of what had happened to me earlier as well, now that I'm thinking about it, because I did bring it with me when I went to go move in with them.
Hmm. And you said that that toy that you had, that you got it when you were in a completely different house.
Mhm. I was at my
Dang.
mom's house, and I had won it at school through, like, an event for PE. So, yeah.
Damn. And you know, I've always, and kind of like, I don't know if it's similar to that, but I'm very kind of like, I don't know how to explain it, but I guess I could kind of explain it, just sort of like kind of telling a story too, a short story. But I remember when I was in elementary school, there was a random period of time, like couple days, where I was just feeling like absolute shit, like completely, like I was feeling weak. I was feeling, and to be completely honest with you, I might have
Yeah.
actually been sick, but little kid me, little Alex, might have just like not realized it. But at the time, before I got sick or before I started feeling like that, I had gotten this necklace that had like, it was just a normal necklace, but the pendant or the charm or whatever was a black star, right? It was a black star.
Mhm.
And I was wearing that for a while, and then as soon as I got it and I put it on is when I started feeling like that. And I don't know if it was coincidence or not, but I remember just walking home one day wearing this fucking necklace, and I don't know why I associated it to that necklace, that something prompted me to just rip it off my neck and just throw it. And as soon as I did that, I felt a whole lot better. And I don't know if that's just being superstitious or just being super weird, but ever since then, I've always like had that feeling of like, it has to do with something that I just got that has really bad energy that I need to get rid of. And I've always had that, like, it doesn't happen often, but there has been several instances where I associate it to one thing that I get, and it's just completely
Right.
throws off my energies like a lot. And I'm not into this whole like crystals thing, this whole like chakra thing. I like, I believe in meditation and
Yeah.
just like doing that stuff, but I don't, I'm not like that. So for me to like just do that, and it's funny because once I get rid of it, it just, everything like completely changes back to normal. And I don't know if you have that or if you've had instances like that, but I don't know why that just kind of like made me think like, well, it probably has this sort of energy, what you had that toy, and maybe bringing it to like another area just completely like, I don't know, just transferred or something. I don't know, it's just really weird. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're getting at. I do believe that there are energies in this world.
Right.
Obviously not like, of course, as you stated, like, all these rocks and jewel and stuff like that, like juju or whatever, it's just, I do think there are other things though that we don't understand.
Yeah, I agree.
uh, but yeah, so
um but
it also could be, I don't know, like, what was the chain of the necklace? Was it like an actual, was it metal or was it like
No, it
string,
was just
rope?
this like really shitty fucking one that you get from like those, like put in 25 cents, like those little machines that you are like a restaurant and shit. And I got it, and it just so happened to be like this edgy black star, and I was just like associated to that, but I don't know. But but damn, dude, that's insane. Yeah. And just as you were telling your stories and as you were kind of like reliving that, it kind of like brought back a lot of memories like that. And I'm glad that we had this conversation, because it's a conversation that I don't really have a lot with a lot of people. Obviously, like I said, I talk about the creepypasta thing, I talk about it, but creepypastas are just like, it's like internet folklore. Maybe they stem from reality, actual stories that completely turn into these different things. You know, the internet goes wild
Yeah.
with that sort of shit. But moving on though, unless you have anything else that you want to add to that before we move on, because there is just one more topic that I do want to like talk about. It's a kind of a trend here.
Um, I guess one last thing I'll just add is creepypastas, SCPs, stuff like that. The people who are making that stuff, keep at it. It's amazing.
Yes,
Like the work you guys put into that, it's great.
please.
There, just know that there are some stories that can cause issues like with 11 and I.
Yes, and I won't say it by name because I already went through my traumatic experiences, reliving it, editing the last quarantine cast where I talked about that stuff with Eric Eccentric. But
Yeah.
it's just something that, like I said, as a teenager, I would kind of like obsess over reading these different stories, whether they be really ridiculous right off the bat. You know that they're fake. It's just meant for entertainment. But then there's other ones
Yeah.
where you're like, well, is this real? You know, like, is it really happening? And then you see images attached to some of these creepypastas that just stick with you. Even for me, just seeing certain images from that era just really still kind of give me the shivers and really kind of like, oh fuck, like, do I really want to be reliving this right now? But moving along though, I do want to
Yeah.
ask, because you know we used to stream on YouTube, we stream on Twitch and stuff. Gaming is part of our life. I don't know about you, but for me, since I was little, I'm assuming the same thing for you. I was introduced into, you know, video games at a really young age. But one of the questions that I like to ask my guests, and you know, the very few that I've had, but something that I talked about and I have talked about and kind of think about, you know, as time goes on. But I want to ask you personally, because I know that you're into different types of games, but what is your favorite video game of all time, if you have one, and why do you consider it your favorite video game of all time?
Before I answer that, I do want to say video gaming has also been very like part of my childhood. Like I want to say the moment that I could start holding on to things and like understanding what things were is when I started playing video games.
Right.
So like
Yeah,
maybe two, three
because
years old.
because you are a couple years older than me, right? I don't want to say like how old you are, because I don't know how you feel
Yeah,
about that,
yeah.
but I think we talked about it, and you are like maybe like 3 years older than me, I think.
I want to say one or two, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But go
Uh,
ahead.
but yeah, but I still remember the very first game I ever played was actually Pokemon Stadium. And the funny
Dang.
thing was, like, even though my first game was, you know, this Nintendo 64 game, my parents still, or at least at the time, it was just my mom appreciated history. Like, not like, you know, just in general, like history in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she still owned like the NES, the SNES, the Sega Genesis, stuff like that, like the older consoles than what was there at the time. So I actually had a chance of playing those games, asking for more of those games, you know, that sort of stuff. And we so it was a very classic centric household, and you know, so I pretty much played uh at least starting from the NES onwards, from like Nintendo, Sega, Sony. Though I've never owned my own Microsoft consoles, I
Mm-hmm.
have played a few from like when going to friends' house and whatnot. So, but as for my favorite game, um, it is kind of hard to decide on something like that because like each game does something different for me. So like if I can say like Mario Kart 8 is my favorite game, but it's really only my favorite racing game, you know?
Right.
Um, because then on the other hand, I'm like, well, I also really love Puyo Puyo, but that's my favorite puzzle game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it would it's kind of hard to decide like the all-time favorite when it comes to that sort of stuff.
Well, I guess
Uh,
maybe a better question would be, do you have one game that you could always go back to, that I don't want to say a safety net, but a game that just really means a lot to you, that you know that if you pop it in right now, you do not want to stop playing it because you just love it, like you just enjoy the crap out of it, that you could just play it like all day? Like, is there a game that does that for you?
I
And
would say a game that would fit all of those, that would check all those boxes. It would probably have to be, honestly, okay, well, okay, if I had friends as well or relatives who were also playing with me at the time, then it would definitely be Dokapon Kingdom.
okay.
That one is definitely checks all those boxes, but not something that I can play single player, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but if it's a single player game, uh, oof, that one is a bit more tough
It's
because there
okay,
really hasn't.
and it's okay if like I said, it doesn't have to be a single player game or anything, like a single player experience. It could just be like literally anything, you know, whether it be because you have memories with it of playing it with friends or family, or it's just something that you could, like I said, you could play to this day. And like what I consider, why I mentioned this is because um like for me, for example, my one of my the answer that I would always give was Super Mario World, because that was one of the very first games that I've ever played, and I have very fond memories of it, playing with it with my big sister. And even
Right.
to this day, it's the game that I know the ins and outs of. It's the game like that I know like the back of my hand. And seeing playing it with other people, especially now that the Switch has the SNES thing where you could play it online with people. Um, it's really funny just watching people play it, because I speed run through that game. Like I know it so well that just seeing other people play it, it's funny. I love teaching people how to play it, and I don't mind watching speed runs of it. And it's just one of those. But recently, my answer has been Final Fantasy VII Remake. I know it's recent, but the reason why I say it is because it's just what I think what I've said last time was, your favorite video game, you don't pick your favorite video game. You know, your favorite video game picks you. And the reason why I say that is because when I started playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, it was in the middle of the pandemic. I mean, we're still going through the pandemic, obviously, but it was
Right.
when shit was picking up, when shit was getting really bad. And that's when I started playing it. And I stopped playing it because I got COVID, and a bunch of my family members got COVID. And when I started playing it again, when I started getting better, my mom was in the hospital with dealing with really, really, really bad COVID, to the point where we didn't really know what was going to happen with her. And I started playing it around that time, and I was dealing with a lot of stress. My anxiety was like the worst that it's ever been. I don't think, even to this day, I don't think I've had cases of that anxiety that bad. But I started playing it, and for me, what it did for me was it took me away from all this crazy, stressful things. It just really cultivated me. I don't know if that's even how you say it. Cultivated me into this different world where, if for a bit there, I didn't know, like COVID didn't exist, right? For me, it was just I had to defeat Sephiroth essentially, you know. But that's what I mean by, like, that's why it's my favorite game, because it did so much for me at the time that it's just something that I could never forget. And like I said, it doesn't have to be anything like multiplayer, and it's okay if you don't have your favorite game. I think that I've heard
I think
different.
I've actually figured something out as you were talking.
Oh, go for it, go for it.
Which I don't mean to like, I like cut you off or
Oh, no, 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 it's
like kind of
fine.
diminish what you were saying. I definitely agree with you on that aspect. Like uh, when you're dealing with a lot of issues and you have that game that just like helps you cope with it,
Right, right,
it is definitely going to be up there on your like favorites because it's helping you through your actual life. It's giving you that chance.
right.
Um, and it was when you were saying that's when I've found something that I have played for 10 years straight as it was going on. And it's this not very well known game actually, and I'm sad because I can't actually just pop it in because it's shut down now, but it was a game called Get Amp 2. And I feel like I've told you about this game before, because I know that anytime that I start talking about games with people, which I don't know why it didn't pop into my head now until, after you said all this stuff, but it is a game that while it was still out, I was constantly recommending people to play it because I realized the game was dying and it needed more people. But at the same time, I kind of wished that it moved to a different company to take care of it because the company that did take care of it throughout its whole lifespan was also the reason as to why it died.
Mm,
Um, but the game came out back in 2008, and I was playing it all the way up until it died. Uh, well, I want to say actually 2 years before it died because it died officially in 2020, but in
jeez.
2018 is when it was pretty much unplayable and it was impossible to get new people into the game. I don't want to get too far into it because it's like an entire controversy. Not so much with the company, but like basically there was just a hacker who would not leave the game alone and single-handedly destroyed the game.
Wow.
Uh, and he was doing it for 2 whole years before they finally were like, okay, yeah, we're just shutting it down. But yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and also as I'm talking about this game, I'm gonna send you some stuff that you can kind of flash on screen about, because another thing, I guess this is kind of what got me really into the meme making stuff as well. Um, this game had a skin editor. You know, like how in Minecraft you can edit what your character looks like if you have, like, even just the slightest bit of, like paint or something. Like
Right.
you can edit your character and what they look like. This game had that as well, and it came out before Minecraft. You know, it was it was a isometric 3D fighting game, 3D fighting arena game, arena brawler, I guess is what it would be more specific.
That's awesome.
Um, and they had an editor that you could go in, edit your characters, edit what they look like, and people were making a bunch of all this copyrighted stuff, but it looked amazing. And I'm gonna go ahead and send you some stuff right now. And these are things that I've created personally.
I was about to
Um,
ask you if you still had some of the pictures of what you created.
yeah. So these are some of the stuff that I've made. And as you can see, it gives you a lot of freedom when it comes to creating your own custom character. And this game is actually the very first time, which sadly I do not have the picture for, but this game is the very first time that Joyishi ever came into existence, because this is the game that I first created him on. It was just a really fun game. Not only did you have like skin editors, to create your own character. It also had a built-in music editor, so you could edit the music and play it in your player house, which the game also had player housing.
That's
For
awesome.
something back in 2008 that wasn't really that well known, like for a game to have. So in your house, you could play your own custom music. The game also had it to where you could edit the actual in-game music, like for the stages. So you could go on a stage and you'd have like uh Papa Roach be singing in the background for that stage, like officially in game. You'd be the only one who heard it, of course, but it would still be there, as your own game file. Um, so it was just like so much customization, so much stuff for all these artistic people, for all these music lovers, and then of course for the fighting game fans, the game actually played really smooth. For the first couple of years the game was out, there was like no lag. Everything felt so comfortable to play. Like you could pick up and play this, and it was like the best feeling arena fighting game you could have on the market at the time. Like you pushed a button, it did what you expected it to do. It had frame cancels. It had like ways to dodge certain things. And the best part about this was that up until I want to say maybe like the last year or two of its lifespan, even the most overpowered, which the game calls them accessories, those like the items that you equip to like change how you play the game or whatever. Even the most overpowered accessory could be beaten by one of the very first accessories ever introduced into the game, which was literally just a snowboard. Like you had all of these fantastic powers. Like they put in Luffy's stretchy arm ability. They put in devil wings with like inferno powers, stuff to freeze you, stuff to poison you, all these different things. Like all these with like amazing fantastical effects to them. And yet here I am coming in with this snowboard smacking people by just pulling off some tricks.
That's fucking great.
And so there's just so much to love about this game. But then, of course, as the longer the game goes on, the company kind of started being more greedy. So a lot of the new accessories were strictly gotcha.
Uh,
Whereas before they would have only like recolors in the gacha. Like the recolors looked amazing. Don't get me wrong. They had like special effects. They were shiny. They didn't change how the accessory played, but they looked cool.
right.
But like the other version, like the base version of the accessory, you could still buy regularly in the in-game shop. But of course, there were some that were gacha exclusive, and people didn't like that. So some people started leaving. Then there was a lot of drama because a lot of people started role playing because when it comes to skin editors like this, you're going to have that sort of stuff because again, also it wasn't just like a lobby system. You had like this whole uh it was like semi lobby. So like you had your my house, you had uh your arena that you could just kind of roam around and talk to people on. There was even like a backyard fighting mode where you
Damn,
could literally
dude.
just go into an alleyway. Like you didn't have to queue up for any lobby or anything. You would just go into one of these backyard brawls and just start fighting people. Like there was no score to keep track of. It was just I don't want to. I just want to chill and fight people, you know. So it was like this 20-man arena of people just fighting each other.
God damn, bro. That sounds
So
awesome. I think even at the time I was like, I don't even know what the fuck I was doing at the time. I feel like I was playing like Neopets or some shit. I could have rather played that.
so so yeah, this game, like I agree with you, by the way. I definitely still played Neopets 2 at the time, but
Yeah.
like this game had so much to offer, and you can kind of see now why I was playing it for 10 years straight. Even with all, like, I never really bought into a lot of the gotcha stuff because I was fine with my hoverboard, my snowboard, with whatever I did have.
Mm-hmm.
And they did have events where you could get like free gotcha rolls and stuff like that, but so I did get some stuff in there too, but a lot of it was free to play. So,
Is
but then of course the hacker came in and destroyed the game and no longer able
that's
to play.
that suck. I was gonna ask like, cause that kind of reminds me of this game that kind of has been like being brought back by the sense of just people playing it from the beginning and absolutely loving it. There's this game called Guns
Mhm.
the Duel. I
I've
don't
heard
know.
of that, yeah.
Yeah, and recently a lot of people have. There's like the specific server that like people brought it back. They changed a couple of the way how it looks, but not the core game mechanics. And it's something like that. I was gonna ask like if there is anything like that for that game for what is it called?
So,
Get Am 2. Is there
uh,
like
yeah,
any sort of like community that still absolutely loves it where there's like private servers or anything like that? Do you know?
yes and no. I will say this, there's definitely a community for this game. Like that, hands down, it's just absolutely.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know exactly how many people are part of this community because it doesn't sell me, obviously. But it takes like a few scrolls to actually get through to the bottom of this list
Mm,
of people because they do have a Discord server for it. And this
okay.
community is trying to make a private server.
Yeah, like
And at first, I was like really hyped for this because, it's like, hey, my favorite game is coming back as a private server and it's really amazing. And they're going to bring back all this stuff. They're not going to have all of these, like
gotcha
things that you,
things.
you don't have to worry about, yeah, like all that stuff. And then recently, when I went back to that Discord server, because I was just waiting for the game to come out, so they were still doing some edits and stuff. So I was like, okay, I'll give it like a month or two. I come back to the server and there's a Patreon for it.
Mm,
And I'm like, okay, what is this Patreon for? Oh, it's just so you can get in early while we still develop the game, and we're just gonna, the game's still gonna be free to play once it fully comes out. Okay, okay, that, yeah, I guess that's fine. You want people to test the game or something. I don't really agree with it, but that's fine. And then another 3 months later, the game's still not out yet. Like
mm,
I don't know how long it takes to make a private server for a game, but I don't think it would take this long, especially
right.
since the game's already fully out there. There is a way that you can also go to the JP version and play the JP game, but of course you're going to have lag there because it's on the other side of the world. Though I know there's a lot of people, different people are going to be watching this live stream, or not live stream, this quarantine cast. And so if you are from the JP version and this game sounds fun and amazing to you, the JP version is still up. And I believe
Okay.
I want to say the Brazilian version is also still up.
So it's
But for
just
the US people,
yeah, it's just the version in the
yeah,
states that's down.
yeah, for the US people, you have to wait for that private server to come
Yeah.
up. And even then, I don't know if they want me like even speaking about it, but I'm not comfortable with how they're doing
Doing
this, so
things,
I'm just
yeah.
like, so
Yeah, and the
yeah.
reason why I bring it up is because over time, like I said, like I just said about Guns the Duel, but over time there has been like communities that have tried to do that too. Like I remember kind of like in Club Penguin, they tried to do that too and it got shut down. I remember WoW, World of Warcraft did that with the original. Like people love vanilla World of Warcraft, so there was a server for that. And I remember it got shut down, and then eventually what led to that was a Blizzard making their own version of WoW Classic. So I'm like, well, and maybe at times it kind of like does light the fire under companies to be like, well, people absolutely want this. Do we want to kind of cater to them and maybe bring in that audience that keep the player base alive, that we would lose in rather than just kind of catering to them. or do
Right.
we just completely ignore it, go the Nintendo path, and just completely shut down every fan project? Which that's really sad that Nintendo does that. That's why I'm a big fan of. I'm obviously still a big fanboy for Nintendo, but that's why I still in the back of my head I'm like, well, Sega is like embracing this. Like,
Yeah.
if you go to Sega Twitter, they like retweet fan art. They like hire people who make fan games of Sonic. It's completely crazy. It's like night and day. But yeah, that's
Even that new Sega game, Sonic the Omens, they were like, "Yeah, this is an amazing game.
yeah. It's like they
Just
acknowledge
don't
it.
sell it."
Yeah,
You know?
exactly. I think at the end of the day, it's like, well, don't try to sell it, you know. But I feel like Nintendo doesn't even care if you're selling it as long as you're using their name. You know, one of the biggest
Yeah.
things is like Pokemon. Like Pokemon, everybody wants to make Pokemon fan games or stuff like that.
So speaking about that, and I hate again, I really hate cutting you off, but
No, no, no.
just
Go
because
for it.
we're
Go for
still
it.
in this topic, the one thing that really got me irked when it came to Nintendo and Game Freak and Pokemon was that not only will they shut down fan games, which is understandable that they shut down, ROM hacks and games trying to be Pokemon and like literally following their formula to a T and they're using their actual characters. Like, yeah, I understand that, especially if the game's being sold
Right.
or trying to outdo what they have, right? But here's the thing, not that long ago, I mean like earlier this year and even like a year before that, there was a person who really loved D&D and they wanted to make Pokemon a part of D&D. So they made a homebrew Pokemon game, right? Or homebrew Pokemon D&D, like, sheet, book, what have you. He wasn't selling it. He wasn't doing anything with it other than, hey, I made this. You guys want to try it out? Here you go. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it garnered a lot of attention. A lot of people really loved it. I played it personally. It was really fun. This guy really knew all there was to know about D&D, and he knew his Pokemon. He even got a bunch of other people who were interested in the project to help him out with creating these sort of things. And it was fantastic. I loved it. But then I don't remember if it was IGN or what game news source really like got a hold of it, but they got a hold of it and they were speaking high praises about it as it deserves. But then immediately, and I mean like I want to say 2 hours after that news was published, they were hit with a cease and desist from Pokemon.
Oh my god, dude. Yeah, that
Not only that, they were also hit with a cease and desist from Wizards of the Coast.
Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah, the people who make D&D. And
Oh.
I was like, I don't like there's so many people in the server who were like, how can they hit you with this? It's homebrew. It's not being sold anywhere. There's nobody trying to sell this to anyone. It is quite literally just a fan passion project. How can they shut this down?
Right.
It's also just like, and by the end of the day, it's all just stuff written down on paper. It's all imagination. How are you shutting down imagination?
Yeah,
Like,
by that logic, it's
but
like I could do that. Like, not anything online. Like, am I gonna get hit with the cease and desist just by mentioning it? You know, like, yeah.
right.
At that point, it's like, where do you draw the line? You know, like I understand a big factor of it is, using just the name Pokemon or like Dungeons and Dragons. Stuff like that hits people. I remember one of the biggest instances like that for me. I was really excited for this ROM hack. I don't know if it's a ROM hack. I want to call it like a fan game instead, but it did use the name Pokemon. It was Pokemon Uranium, and apparently the
Yeah.
guy had been working on it for several years. And when it finally came out, I remember it got taken down like almost immediately. It's like if they were paying attention and waiting for the moment for him to release it, for them to shut it down, and it did get shut down rather quickly. I think there was even an instance where somebody was making a remake of Metroid 2, I think, and that got shut down really quickly, but it doesn't
Yeah.
it's sad to say that it doesn't surprise me, because it's like, well, dude, like there's no harm. Nobody is infringing. Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't want to say that, but nobody is
The
trying to like. Nobody is.
profit.
Yeah, nobody's trying to profit from it. It's just from the love of different IPs and stuff. Nobody's trying to like replace anything that you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and a lot of us were kind of oh my throat. A lot of us were kind of like poking fun at the fact like, oh, maybe this means that Pokemon and D&D are gonna or Pokemon Wizards of the Coast are gonna team up and make their own official Pokemon 5e or something, but obviously that's not going to happen. And it was just like it's just them doing it because either they were forced to or because they really just don't want something like that to exist.
Yeah,
I don't understand it, but it's
like
just how they treat it, and it sucks.
yeah, like I said, I think it's just the fact that it had the name Pokemon, it had D&D attached to it. It doesn't always necessarily, I mean, it's good to be hopeful like that. Like, oh, well, does this mean that they're working on something and they don't want anybody to like get ahead of them? But like most of the time it's just them being petty, them not wanting
Yeah.
it to be attached to anything that's not officially by them. But that really does suck to hear. But it's really nice to hear about your stories about Get Am 2, because I had that similar experience with Destiny 2, or Destiny in general, with the first Destiny more than the second one. Kind of fell off of it, but I've talked about
Right.
Destiny and my history with it and how I was obsessed with it when it came out. It left off amazing when Destiny 2 came out. They try to cater to a more casual audience, and some of the things that made Destiny 2 amazing by the end of the first one, whatever they did, changes, guns, armor, whatever they implemented into by the end of the lifespan of the very first one, did not transfer over to the second one at launch, which really really did suck, and it really did turn a lot of people off that were veterans of the game, myself included. I have a Destiny tattoo and everything, but I don't play it as much as I would want, and I still beat myself up about it, because when I played Destiny 1, it was around in the time when I was a teenager. I was very much still trying to figure myself out, but I knew that regardless of what I had going on, I had Destiny to like get me through it. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that you would want to talk about before we kind of cap it off here. Any last sort of like comments, anything else that you want to add to anything that we talked about?
Yeah. I want to say the company that made Get Amp 2, right? They also made some other games. They made, and I don't know if you'll know what these games are, but they also made a game, an MMORPG called Onigiri, and
Okay.
they also made a robot action fighting game called. It got released on Steam recently. I don't remember what it was called exactly, but they also made that as well. And the thing is, when they were first hosting this stuff, and of course it has to go back to like the longer the game was out, the more greedy they got. But like these games were definitely loved by fans who played them. And when the robot game got shut down, they re-uploaded it to Steam like a few years after they shut it down on their main website. Um, and everyone was super excited, like everyone was really excited that this game was finally out, and they had all these promises and whatnot for like it's going to be cheaper store, because the game's pretty old. It's going to be like all these redone graphics and all that stuff. We're going to have a lot more added to the game, and all they literally all they did was just do a direct translation from the Japanese version of the game and put it on Steam.
Mm,
So it had the Japanese currency, or the Japanese, and not so much Japanese currency, but like the same cost of items in the store as the Japanese game, which is more expensive than the American version was.
was it called
And
like Cosmic Break or like Cyber
yes,
Step?
yeah, Cosmic Break, yeah, that one.
Looks awesome.
And and the Steam version's not. But the thing is, like, when the game came out on Steam, of course, everyone was excited. It's like, oh my god, Cosmic Break's coming back officially. They're bringing it back. And then they dropped the ball, and literally, like, it was just unplayable. Like, you couldn't do anything. People couldn't get into matches. There was just nothing going on. And of course, it had to do with like the server couldn't handle all these different people trying to get in. I'm pretty sure now it's a lot easier to get into matches and stuff, but it was also just like, as they said, oh, it's cheaper prices in the shop, cheaper for the Japanese version, but more expensive from the US version.
Right.
So it was like this weird this weird amalgamation between the US and Japanese version of the game. It just didn't pair well. And I kind of don't want them to do that to Get Amp 2. I don't want them to have a resurgence of that. It's definitely better than these people trying to profit off of like a private server for it. That's for sure. But at the same time, I don't want them to mess up the game that like kind of defined who I am, because I was playing it for so long. I'd much rather them either make a part three, because Get Amp 2, as the 2 implies, it is the second to one of their very old classic titles, which was called Splash Fighters. And Splash Fighters had pretty much a lot of the same stuff. It was just a lot more buggy and a lot slower, a lot more clunky. So Get Amp 2 is definitely a much better version. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that
I don't want them bringing it back if they're going to give it the cosmic break treatment.
that
You know.
that's how I feel about, to bring it back to Destiny, that's exactly how I feel, because like I said, as Destiny 1 evolved, things got implemented, quality of life changes, revisions to the gunplay and how armor works. At the end of its lifespan, it was left off as just this really awesome, amazing game. Cosmetics were like amazing looking.
Mhm.
So whenever you popped in Destiny 2, I was really excited. I was kind of swayed by the fact of, I was just taken over by the hype. I didn't really care about, like, I understood what was going on. I was like, okay, well, this is not exactly what Destiny 1 left off at, but okay, I'll take it. I was just entranced by the hype. But as you start to kind of play it more, you understand what they were going for. You understand the audience they were trying to cater to, and you start to understand that they were working with Activision at the time, and microtransactions are a thing, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And you start to understand that, like, this is not what we left off at. Like, what happened? Where is this? What happened to this thing that you implemented? Why are some of the best features of the original being taken off from a sequel? What's the point of making a sequel if you are just going to completely strip what made the original amazing, right? I thought this was going to be the new foundation, but it
Rip
just
Mega Evolutions.
yeah,
Sorry,
yeah.
just
No,
had to bring that
no,
in.
you're completely right. I don't disagree with that at all. But yeah, it's just something that it's really frustrating, but it depends on like the partners. Like, I always associate some of the bad things that happened with Destiny and Bungie with some of the influence that Activision had. And obviously nowadays, I don't know if you've been reading up with what's going on with Activision. There's some really
Yeah,
controversial things happening with Activision that is
yeah,
just horrible to hear. But I could kind of, now it kind of makes sense in my head why they would want to kind of split, not only because of business practices, but what is actually happening behind the scenes. But it's just it just sucks. And like you said, I would rather a company maybe take a look at what made something great, instead of just moving on to something and just completely forgetting about that, or just trying to revitalize something and not doing it the way that people remember, or just taking away what made it so great to begin with. At that point, it's just like, well, what's the point of doing it anyways? But yeah, I don't know if you want to say anything else about that.
I will say this: if I can get a team together who, because I majored in video game production, not so much the designing of the art side or the coding side. I was kind of like the middleman, the one who's like gets the ideas, gets the business stuff done. I was in production, right? If I can get a team together to create a game as awesome as Get Amp 2, with all the features it had, all like, but like, more into what we have now, so something that can compete with what we have now, I can guarantee you the game would definitely be a lot better, especially since, as someone who grew up with the hatred towards microtransactions, the hatred towards all these things, which I also do have an understanding of why they exist, but there would definitely be no pay to win. There'd be no gotcha for all these different things, unless it was like the way it used to be, where it was just like you can do the gotcha for like the cool looking version of it, but you can still just buy the regular version if you just want the gameplay mechanic version of it. So I would definitely like to get a team together to remake, like from the ground up, something as great as Good Amp 2. Because if you look in the market right now, heck, I don't even know. Originally, I was going to say I think the only game that you can play that's an arena brawler right now, MMO, is Rumble Fighter. But even then, I don't even know if Rumble Fighter is even still up right now. I think they shut down too. So there's really no arena and brawler MMOs you can play anymore. So that, like, that market is open for someone to just come in and take over, monopolize that particular market. Because
Right.
I know there's people wanting it, as the community for Get Amp 2 shows, and the community for Rumble Fighter, Lost Saga, like all of these games there is definitely a market there as long as you don't make the game pay to win.
Yeah, I think the whole pay to win thing really does turn off a lot of people slowly but surely. Some people try to justify it, and you know, I mean, recently I've noticed that on Twitter you've been kind of vocal about it, about the whole Pokemon Unite thing. Because at the core of it, you have this like really fun game, and then you kind of like spoil it by implementing such, I want to say predatory tactics that like
Yeah,
obviously at that point you put out a product and you're like, well, people really like it, so fuck it, yeah, this gives us the go to like put in these microtransactions. And like I said, my favorite way of microtransactions is when it's just purely cosmetic.
cosmetic.
Yeah,
Yeah,
purely cosmetic.
exactly.
Like I had no problem going into Pokemon Unite, buying that fucking summer skin for Snorlax, because I know that it's not going to affect my gameplay. I know it's not going to affect anybody else's gameplay, but it's just purely cosmetic. Like I'm not going to say how much money I've spent on Fortnite, but I'm a sucker for really cool looking skins, you know? But I know
Exactly.
that I don't feel guilty about it. Maybe my bank does, but I'm not going to feel guilty about it because I know that it's not hurting anybody else's experience while I play the game. But the
Yeah,
moment that they implement, for example, not that Destiny has ever done this, thank God, but the moment that they implement a gun that is for whatever reason behind a paywall, then that's when it's like, okay, well, dude, now you're just kind of like taking your fans like kind of trust, and you're kind of throwing it out the window, because you know that regardless of how much, like how bad it is, your practices, you're taking that trust, and you know that they're gonna buy it simply to support your game. And at that point it's just like, well, it just sucks. It really just sucks. And like you
yeah,
said, in multiple instances, if it's proven to kill games and to completely ruin it, you know, and it sucks to see that.
exactly. And building off of the Pokemon Unite thing, I know, as you said, I've been very vocal about it. I do want people to know that I actually feel sorry for all of these people who bought into the fact that you can buy levels, you can buy item levels and stuff like with these tokens and real money. And the reason I feel sorry for these people is because at the end of the day, give the game like 1 month, 2 months of it being alive, everyone who's free to play will have caught up to you.
Exactly.
So there's no, so you basically wasted money to get somewhere faster for a small chance at beating people, even though the game still relies heavily on skill. And I know there's a lot of people who are going to disagree with me on this because a lot of people really hate pay to win that much. And I agree, I hate pay to win. But in Pokemon Unite's case, it's less pay to win, pay to get there faster.
Yeah, you at this point you're just kind of paying for a little bit of a head start, when in reality those who are patient are just playing the game to get better and have fun with it. We're going to get there, you know, we're going to get there, you know. It's just a
Yeah,
matter of time. And at that point it's like, yes, you're going to have a little bit of an advantage. You know, I haven't looked at the data or to see how much of an advantage you're getting. I'm pretty sure it's pretty significant, but at that point you're just taking advantage that you have a power advantage, but you're not necessarily getting better at the game, you know. Like, people are being
yeah.
patient, you know, people who come through with the knowledge of dotas and stuff like that, not dotas, mobas, like they're gonna be the ones that get better at the game, and eventually we're just gonna be there just like you, and we're gonna completely dominate you. So at the end of the day, you're
Yeah.
gonna look back and you're gonna be like, well, I spent this amount of money, you know, hoping for that little bit of serotonin, knowing that I'm kicking 12-year-old kids butts in fucking Pokemon Unite, when, you know, you're gonna get stomped on, like eventually, you know, by people who were patient, didn't give in to the temptation of knowing that they could have that head start.
And the worst part is, I already can sense it. In the future, there's going to be a lawsuit for this because all these people who paid to get ahead faster, they're going to realize eventually, like maybe even not even a week from now, maybe even sooner than that, that all this money they spent was for nothing. And they're going to want their money back
Oh,
because they don't,
absolutely.
because they're not going to want, because they're going to be like, oh, I was ahead. I used to be so strong. And then now it's like, what, did they nerf my item or something? Why did they do something to stuff that I paid for? When in reality, it's just people already caught up. I'm already 400 battles in. I'm like level 35. I free to play since day one, and it's only been like less than 2 weeks because it's like what day 12 the game's been out. I
Yeah.
already have like 3 items level 25. Like I'm already caught up and I'm free to play.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. Like, I never really understood it. And it's mostly like, well, not to kind of like diminish anybody that has kind of fell into the temptation. I know it's hard at times because it's like, well, I just want to be top level or whatever, but at that point, it's like, are you doing it because you're a completionist, like, and you want to like have everything in the game, or are you doing it because I feel like, I don't know, I don't want to like talk shit, but part of me is telling me like these people are just buying this shit because they're not willing to spend the time, or they know that they're not good at the game, so they have to cash out in order for them to feel like some sense of of them being good at a game, and like you said, I would not be surprised if sooner rather than later they're going to be hit with lawsuits where people are going to be like, well, I bought this product and it's not as good anymore. It's like it's bound to happen eventually. People,
Hmm.
you always have those people that are willing to do that when their bit of a head start is not so much what they thought it was going to be, because when the game offers those same kind of like experience, if you're patient, if you're free to play, which I feel like most people are, I feel like it's just the principle of it. I hate that the companies fall into it, but the company who made the game, Tencent, is well known for this sort of thing, this sort of practice. I'm not surprised that it was in the game to begin with, but yeah, it's just a practice that really it's a shame. It's a shame because at the core of it, Pokemon Unite is really fun. Like you said, like I played I don't know what would you consider the game that we played on stream that one time. Would you consider that a MOBA?
That is actually a combination of MOBA and battle. Was it
Battle Royale.
Battle Arena? Yeah, Battle Royale.
Yeah,
It's a MOBA Battle Royale. Yeah.
yeah. So like I suck. Like I literally suck at it. So for me, this is like the most kiddish, most like entry level thing that I could get into to kind of like start to build some sort of like knowledge about it, and I'm having a lot of fun with it. Like I had, like I said, I think I mentioned this previously, but the only MOBA that I really spent quite a bit of time playing was Smite, and even then, like this is not like to the depth that Smite is to that extent. But
Yeah, and definitely this is like the only game in existence so far that has ever made me want to be like, okay, yeah, I think I can do ranked.
yeah,
So,
exactly, yeah.
because like even in Pokemon, I used to be in competitive Pokemon, but not in the main games, more so just like on what do you call it, the battle simulator, the online battle simulator, the Smogon stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I used to do that, but I dropped out of that really quickly because I was like it was fun. I was dominating people because people, and the thing that I've noticed the most is that people will follow a meta so much that they will refuse to go away from it. And because of that, you are able to easily plan ahead. Like you could go into 5 fights where people had the exact same setup, the exact same things, and you could very easily just work around it. You knew exactly what they were going to switch into, you know exactly what they were going to start up with, and that's exactly how I dominated because no one knew how to react to something that wasn't meta. And it's the same way with Pokemon Unite too. Like I'm already starting to see a meta with certain Pokemon moves being chosen, certain paths that people are taking. There was even a group that I was accidentally brought into because of a friend, where they had the mindset of competitive league, competitive Dota, stuff like that, and they were talking about like you got to do this, you got to do that at a certain time, you have to be here, there's certain rotations you have to do, all that sort of stuff. And I understand, all that meta talk and stuff, but at the same time, if everyone's going to be following that order, and it already happened to us too during that same session, something's going to happen to where we can't prepare for that and it's going to all crash down. And literally 3 games later, they realized that we were doing a very specific thing, and what did the enemy team do? Well, they just 5-manned a lane until they reached the end, and 5-man the other lane until they reached the end. And our top level competitive player didn't know what to do about that.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah, there's metas, but
I could relate to that a lot with Smash Brothers because it's really, in Smash Brothers, obviously there is a tier list of like how, like which characters are better than others. And for a bit there, the biggest example for me is Joker. Like Joker is very
Right.
clearly a top tier character, arguably the best character in the game. And for a
I don't
while,
know. I think we fit trainers, but I was joking.
well, here that's the thing. Like here's the thing. For a while there, everybody realized it. All the top players were making their tier list. Joker was always on the top, right? So people started picking up Joker, right? Like he's the best character in the game, like whatever. People very, very quickly found out that like the weaknesses, where he excels, whatever. They broke the character down. The more popular it got, the more strategies, the more the combos were put out there. The meta, like Joker is the meta, right? People understood that like, well, we could abuse these weaknesses with characters like you said, like We Fit Trainer. Like people are overlooking some of these like average sort of mid-tier characters. So whenever they go up against like for example, like I main Jigglypuff, I main like a lot of my mains are actually bottom tier, like low tier characters, but people go into some of these matches online not knowing what to do, right? And that's because they're so hyper focused on playing a certain way or whatever, that they get completely thrown off when you have a Jigglypuff doing whatever it is that I do with Jigglypuff, and they just do not expect it, because it's like, well, you've been so hyper focused on one thing that whenever somebody breaks that, quickly understands that, hey, well, this whatever it is that Joker's doing, I've seen a bunch of other Jokers doing too. So it's like it's easy for me to pick up on that and predict that and completely decimate whatever it is, whatever game plan you came into the match doing. So
Right.
I feel like a lot of people get stuck on metas, and even on Destiny, like bring it back to Destiny, like there was obviously guns that were way better than others, but the moment that the more videos are made about this certain meta, the more that people break down a certain loadout, it's easy for other people to come through and just completely decimate it, because we know what to expect, because it's like the popular thing. And just like you said, like your team, the team that you were playing with, went into it a certain way because it's the meta, but the other team quickly adapted to it, and they completely decimated the other people that you were playing with.
Yeah. And this is something that my current friend group always says when it comes to metas. It is perfectly fine to do your research and understand what the meta is, but it is not okay to blindly follow the meta without understanding how it works in the first place.
Exactly.
Don't just look at a tier list, see that, oh, this person is SSSSS tier, and then pick them without realizing why they're SSSSS tier, because then you're gonna be feeling like, oh, they're like D tier at best, like you can't go into this with that mindset, and I see it all the time. Even on games as simple as Mario Kart 8, there you will go in. There's no way you will go online and not see a Waluigi riding a Wiggler with the tiny wheels and the paper air kite thing, paper kite. Everyone's using that.
Yeah.
Do they know why they're using it? No.
No.
They just see a lot of other people using it and they're like, oh, this must be better. And doing the research, understanding why it's so good, yeah, it's the best all-around vehicle you can probably get. But I'm pretty sure 90% of the people who use this build don't even know that that's the reason.
It's a lot of like a
And
lot of it is just placebo, knowing that it's what's
yeah,
popular and it works out for other people, so clearly it must work for you.
it's actually better in my, again, back to the friend group, it is better to understand why the meta is the way it is, so that way you can find something to break it, and when you break it, then a new meta will be born, and then you
Exactly.
can break that. Like, that is the best way to go about playing a competitive game, unless the competitive game in question really has no weakness to that meta. And in some cases, that is indeed the case, because either a certain character is just way too overpowered, or a certain build is just way too good. In Pokemon Unite's case, there is definitely a certain broken meta when it comes to Crustle, where you just give him the score shield and score shield, the Aos cookie, and the attack weight, so that, and you build him with the shell smash, You activate Cell Smash right next to their goal. You are unable to be moved. You're unable to be CC'd. You're moving really fast. Go into that goal, score like a 1 to 5, so that way it's just really quick. Get out of there. Congratulations, you just buffed up your attack and your HP. You buffed up your attack by like 9 points and your HP by 200, and it was all for free. No one can stop you while doing that, and you scored a 5. It's like nothing can stop that unless you have the whole 5-man team there, or at least 3 people who know how to counteract that, which even then is really hard to do, and no one's going to really be prepared for that sort of thing, you know? So, yeah.
Well, thank you for the tip. I'm about to unlock Crystal. Nah, I'm kidding. I'll stick to Snorlax, and like, I don't know. Recently, I've been playing Gardevoir, which I think she's pretty nutty. And recently, I've also been playing Zoro because immediately I heard that Zoro was actually pretty cracked. So I kind of steered away from it just simply because I didn't want to fall into it. But I play Zoro, and Zoro is fucking stupid. But
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, man, like, I guess just to cap it all off, like, I want to say thank you for joining me today.
Mhm.
I really, really do appreciate it. I know, like I said in the beginning of it, it's been a while since we brought up the idea. And another thing is that I really do hope that in the future we do more stuff like this through streams or just videos. I know, like I said,
Yeah, for sure.
when we initially met, one of the goals that we wanted to do was, you know, we got a certain friend group, and we wanted to make content, and I still hope that we are able to do that with them, because those people that were in that are really, really amazing people and really awesome content creators too. But thank you so much, Joy, for joining me today. I really do appreciate it. I do want to give you the chance though to, you know, plug yourself, plug anything that you have upcoming, any plans that you want to maybe talk about, or just maybe talk about where people could find you, so that, you know, they could see more of you.
Yeah, of course. My Twitch name is Fuyu Joyishi. You can find me. I think you can easily just find me by typing in Joyishi on Twitch. It should be very simple. I am the guy with the green hat and the blue gem on said hat. So, as far as I'm aware, that's the only version out there that has that same design. And for YouTube, you can just find me as Joyishi. I want to start uploading more to YouTube based on what I've done on Twitch. It's kind of hard for me to do so when I stream for really long, and then like trying to shrink that down to like 20 minutes or something is it's kind of hard to do. And also with the fact that I have ADHD, it's really hard to like hyper focus on that when it's not really something that I'm interested in doing, you
Right.
know? But yeah, and then of course I do plan on doing more art streams. Depending on when this gets uploaded, every Sunday at 6 Central Time, I will be having a collab session with, if I can get their names, Brutal Smile, Crimson, Nezumi, and Amumu-sama, for doing a voiceover of the Nekopara Catboy Paradise. So
sounds awesome.
you know, kind of go in for that. Also, I feel like we should kind of give shout outs to the people who were there at the beginning, you know, with Espion the Magician, AP. If Muzu did stuff, definitely would shout out Muzu for bringing us all together, you know.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I do want to shout out AP too. Like I said, because we mentioned it. Like I said, I mentioned this several times. Where that's one of the reasons how we got together and we met. But yeah, shout out to Espion the Magician. He streams a lot of Pokemon. I will probably end up linking all their channels down below. Hero NPC, Mr. Rage Quit, AP does amazing like sort of docu like videos, and obviously shouts out to Muzu. I always shout out Muzu one way or another. Muzu keeps getting brought up in these quarantine casts. Like Muzu is an anomaly in my channel. Like Muzu always comes through, and it's just a presence in the channel. But yeah, shouts out to everybody. But yeah, speaking of that, I will link Joy down below on his Twitch, for his Twitter, on his YouTube, like everywhere that you could find him. I'm gonna link it down below so you guys could check him out. Please support the homie, because he does do really amazing content. If he does plan to do more YouTube stuff, then you could find him on YouTube. He's very active on Twitter and obviously on Twitch. But please follow him there. Everything about Joy is going to be down below in the description. But Thank you so much, Joy. Again, you are amazing. It's really nice to pick your brain a little bit, get to know you a lot more. Because I know that we've had conversations here and there. Obviously, we did that one collab stream, but we never actually had like a proper conversation about things in general. So it's really nice to
Right.
just like talk to you and get to know you a bit better. But thank you so much, my dude. I don't know if there's anything else you want to say before we end it.
Just one last shout out, and that's to my mother. Shout out to my mom.
Yeah, shout out to all the moms out
Amazing.
there.
Yeah, amazing person. Pretty much the biggest shining light in my life, and kind of the reason why I've never had a single suicidal thought. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
I really owe a lot to her.
yeah, I've never really talked. Maybe I'll save it for another quarantine cast about my relationship with my mom and my parents. But yeah, I do. Obviously, I would very much. My personality is very much built off of my mom's personality. Like my outgoing sort of sense of doing things is very much from my mom's side. Um, and yeah, but yeah, shout out to all the moms out there. Shout out to Mama Joy. Appreciate you for delivering such an artistic homie. But yeah,
All right, yeah, that's
but
it for me.
but thank you so much, Joey. I appreciate you, man. Got my love for you.
Yeah, thank you for having on me. Sure, thank you for having me on here.
But yeah, guys.
uh,
But yeah, guys. Thank you everybody for tuning into another episode of Quarantine Cast. This was episode 8 featuring Joyishi. But thank you so much, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Adios.